Welcome everybody to this to today's webcast on the 7.5 reasons to upgrade to Altiris 7.5. I appreciate everybody being able to join here. As a quick note, my name is Bob Rabbit. I'm the VP of Engineering here at ITS, and for those of you who don't know who ITS is, we are a premier implementation partner that focuses around semantics endpoint management solutions, IT security, and IT automation. So today what we want to talk about is something that, again, everybody here at ITS is very excited about, and that's the release of the Altiris 7.5 platform. And the purpose of today's webinar is to really give an overview of those top reasons that again, we personally are very, very excited about, the customers we talk to have been excited about, and to give an overview of those particular aspects that, that again, we find very, very, very compelling. In addition to this, we will be doing some additional webinars and videos and even on-site visits around 7.5. So this is just really just the beginning for ITS as we really start to ramp up for the release of 7.5. So again, please be looking for additional activities and videos and information coming out from ITS here in the near future. So with that being said, I wanted to very briefly introduce the reasons that we're going to go through here today. And again, as you may have noticed, there are 7.5 reasons, but I will leave it up to you to decide what that half a reason is. Right? So that's all dependent on preference there. So again, at a high level, as we look at this, the first really is cloud-enabled management, right? That ability to manage devices in the cloud without having to connect via VPN or have an SAP out in the DMZ, right? So very, very excited about that functionality. Updates to deployment solutions, some of the capabilities and things that we're able to do with deployment solution that again we weren't previously able to do in the 7.0 platform, but are now able to do in 7.5 and even go beyond that as well. So some exciting things around that, and very much related to that would be some of the additional capabilities around managing Macintoshes. So again, we will talk about that and some of the implications there. Performance, again, is that fourth bullet point that I have up. Performance is always something folks ask about, right? Anytime a new release comes out, we want to talk about, well, does it perform better than the last? Is the console more responsive, right? How does the solution actually work? Platform support, again, that's always kind of hand in hand there as we think about, okay, well, it's a new version of the software. Other products and solutions have been upgrading and moving forward alongside of this as well. So what additional platforms are we supporting from an operating system perspective, and those type of things. So we'll talk about that. Talk about additional automation capabilities that are available in the 7.5 platform, and then we will spend some time talking about the install and upgrade process as well. So again, some really great news around that upgrade process to really smooth out the kinks, so to speak, around upgrades and implementations. And then finally, we'll mention and talk a little bit about the iPad app that will be coming out as well, to help you have yet another way to interact with the management platform, be able to get data directly on your iPad and actually take action on that data as well. And then we'll wrap up at the end with a few closing comments and additional information around 7.5 and what other things we are doing. So with that being said, let's jump right in here. Let's talk about cloud-enabled management. This is the first reason that we wanted to talk about, and again, it's been number one in a lot of our customers' minds for quite a while, right? I mean, the whole strategy around bring your own device and all of that, that's almost getting old hat by these days, right? Everybody's pretty familiar with that, and just the just the explosion of folks not only wanting to bring their own device, but kind of wanting to work how they want to work, right? Again, the trend to move to a mobile workforce or maybe a slightly more disconnected workforce is has been around for many, many years and is only getting stronger, right? As people look at different ways to get their job done, and that isn't always obviously by sitting in a cube in an office, right? You know, they could be at a Starbucks or a hotel or at a conference or what have you, and you need to be able to still manage and maintain those devices in as seamless a fashion as possible, right? Just, you know, the whole idea of just one more device and location is just one more location, right? And being able to do that out of the same platform and same tool set that you're managing everything else within the environment. So that's very, very key here as we look at the ability to manage endpoints that are not connected to your network, at least in a traditional manner, right? They're not VPN'd in or have some type of other connection directly into your network. As I mentioned again, they're sitting, you know, this might be a device that's sitting out in a Starbucks or in a hotel room or what have you. And again, it may not come in, you know, that device may not come into a home office, so to speak, for weeks, months, right? It really just depends. Or it may be sitting on one of your customers' networks, right? Maybe you're managing or you're partnering with another organization, and you don't have direct network ties into that facility, but you are still responsible for that device, right? Well, how do we manage it? How do we make sure that it's patched and up to date? And that's what cloud-enabled management is really all about, right? So as we see there, VPN is not required. It does enable that secure communication between the endpoints and the semantic management platform, right? That Altiris server. So again, you're not just communicating, but you're communicating in a secure manner. Now, as we think about some of the capabilities of cloud-enabled management, there's a couple things that I wanted to mention here. Number one is the functionality is built into the agent, so it's not as if you have to deploy a different agent to a roaming device or an internet-facing device as you would to your internal devices. It's all the same agent. It's just depending on depending on whether that's again, as I mentioned, a roaming device or an internal device. It will utilize that cloud-enabled feature or not. And again, to that point, as we think about functionality and how this actually works, the idea here is to make it as seamless as possible, so the device knows how to communicate both when it's internal to the network and when it's external as well. So as we, moving along here, as we look at the solutions that are supported here with cloud-enabled management, we think about task management, right? First of all, that ability where we want to go execute something, right, or perform a task on the device in a more immediate type fashion. We can do that via task management, which is supported in the cloud-enabled management feature capabilities. Inventory application metering, also fully supported, right? And which is very, very important, as I mentioned earlier, as again we think about managing devices out there in the wild, so to speak. They may not come in for a while, and you want to know and have very up-to-date inventory information for a variety of reasons. An example of that would be just again your pure licensing perspective, right? Just making sure that the applications that are supposed to be on that device are still on that device, or they have not, individuals haven't been installing things that they shouldn't have. All those different reasons that you might have. It's great to be able to get that much more consistently, not having to wait for some type of special case for the device to come in to get an updated inventory or usage data. Having that pull in directly is a great benefit there. Software management, patch management as well. Again, as I mentioned, and I know I'm going over and over this, but it's very, very important here as we think about managing devices and making sure from a management posture as well as from a security posture that we're deploying the right applications, they're getting there to the device and individual when they need to, as well as making sure we're staying up to date on patches, right? Again, with the threat landscape that we see today, we don't have months and months to wait to be able to deploy a patch. We need to be able to deploy patches in a much more dynamic fashion, and trying to come up with a process where folks have to come into a network to get their patches and all that. It just, again, it adds additional overhead and management headache that just shouldn't be there, right? So again, those solutions are all baked in and enabled in the CEM functionality. So let's take a look very quickly here. Again, as I mentioned, there will be subsequent webinars and videos coming out from us at ITS and also Symantec, going much more in depth to this. But I do want to briefly take a moment and look here at how this actually works, right? What's the architecture behind CEM? How does it actually function? So really, what most customers are really looking at, customers that are looking to upgrade to the 7.1 platform or 7.5 platform, excuse me. The main thing that they're looking to add there would be this Internet Gateway device that we see there in the DMZ. Now, this device is basically a glorified proxy. I don't want to be a little too pejorative there, but it's really a glorified proxy, right? Where it's a small device, right? It's a small Windows server that you can have running in a virtual machine or what have you, that brokers the communication between the agent and the internal management platform that sits on the inside of your network. Now again, there's some additional configuration related to making sure certificates are set up appropriately, and HTTPS is configured appropriately, and those type of things. But other than that, it's a very lightweight. It's a very lightweight system, right? So we're not talking about heavy hardware, additional infrastructure in order to make CEM work. It actually is fairly light. Not super process intensive, and is very, very scalable. To that point, from a recommendation standpoint, one of the things that we are recommending, in conjunction with Symantec, is that for most organizations, you're probably going to want 2 of those gateway devices, right? And that's purely for a failover and redundancy capability, right? So if one of those goes down, you still have the ability to manage devices on the internet as well. Now, again, we'll get in later series about more specifics about how the actual architecture and how many endpoints can a single gateway actually support, and as well as how many SMPs, right? From a hierarchy perspective, or simply having multiple management platform servers internally. What's that ratio, right? What does that look like, and how can they communicate? And we'll be publishing additional information about that as well. But I guess the short answer here, and the short story on cloud-enabled management, is that it's here, it's real. We've done extensive testing internally at ITS, as well as in conjunction with Symantec on this, and it works very, 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 very well, and has been utilized in several different cases to solve a lot of customer problems there. Okay, so that's cloud-enabled management. Next up is deployment solution, right? So for many of you, I'm sure, as I have, I've been acquainted with the Altiris and semantic management platform for many, 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 many years, and one of my favorite solutions is deployment solution. I was using deployment solution back in 2001 and 2002, all the way up to now, and it's something that's solid. It works well. And it solves a lot of problems. So I'm excited to see some of the additional capabilities that Symantec has built in with 7.5. And granted, some of those are capabilities that we've been asking for a while, right? But they're here, and again, they work very, very well. So the first element that I wanted to mention there is the updates to initial deployment, right? That ability to take, as you see here, there's kind of 3 different areas: unknown devices, predefined devices, and managed devices, and have a different initial deployment experience for each of those, right? So we can build a menu and set of options for different types of devices. So a brand new device that comes in off the network, and we pick, it pixie boots into WinPE. We want to be able to do X, right? So we can have a separate set of options specifically for those unknown devices. Predefined, right? So again, very much here, we can get a predefined list of devices, pre-populate them into the SMP console, and so when they boot up, again, we've got a special set of jobs, or a special menu, so to speak, defined specifically for those predefined devices. So again, predefined are basically, they don't have the full agent on them yet, but we do know about them, and we want to perform certain actions. And then finally, the managed devices, right? We might want to provide some additional options for a device that has the agent on it already. We've been managing it for a while, but maybe we want to provide that self-service capability where, again, during boot up, you can hit F8, get a menu, and do some other actions, right? Whether as an end user, if you want to give them that capability, or maybe as a technician. So again, pretty exciting there, that ability to kind of split up those different areas. Task services, this is another big one, especially those of you who have been using deployment solution in previous versions. So the deployment components have been decoupled from task services, so you no longer have to have the task server enabled and installed on every site server that you also want to utilize as a deployment point, right? So again, you can start simplifying some of that infrastructure, reduce the number of site servers running task services, and then just focus on deploying the site servers that you want to be able to deploy from. So that's been decoupled. In addition to that, as we take a look at some of the NetBoot capabilities and Pixie services, there are no more SBS files. So again, some of the customers that we worked with where Pixie has been a little bit of a challenge at certain points, and maybe required reboots of the Pixie services to get things working. By removing that reliance on SBS files, that whole process has become much more robust. HTTPS support, again, several customers of ours that we've worked with are in a secure environment, and they need and require all communication to be over to be HTTPS. And prior to 7.5 release, there was no support. Well, there was limited support for HTTPS as it relates to deployment solution. There'd be certain aspects that would not work, and that has been rectified. And part of that would be the addition of support for WinPE4 and additional Linux pre-boot environments as well. And then finally, one other thing that again a lot of customers are finding interesting is this additional feature called close match, where as we look at predefining devices within the console, we can simply go predefine a set of computer names. We don't have to have the serial number, we don't have to have the MAC address or anything else like that. All that's required is the device name, so that when we go through the deployment process, we can simply pick that device and have it named that and move through the deployment process. In addition to that, as we think about the naming, and this is getting a little bit more in the weeds here, but as we take a look and think about naming conventions for new devices, right? The process has been updated so that an unknown device, when it's booted up, if you're not using that close match capability, will be the device's serial number instead of the previous name, which was a little bit more difficult to utilize. That was being utilized in the 7.1 architecture. So some great things there. I'll show some quick screenshots here to give everybody a little bit of a picture of what this looks like. So what some of these capabilities look like. So as we look at the left-hand side of the screen, we see those three different initial deployment options that I talked about, right? The unknown, the predefined, and managed computers, right? So we have the option to select different boot images if we want. Different options for how to respond, how quickly to respond. All of those aspects we can control there. And then on the right-hand side is a screenshot of that pre-boot environment and the close match capability that I was talking about, right, where we have a predefined set of devices. So when this device boots up into the pre-boot environment, we can simply select, yep, this is the predefined device that I want, hit OK, and then move on from there. Okay, so Mac management, moving on from deployment solution onto Mac management. This has been a big one. A lot of customers have been asking about this for quite a while, so it's pretty exciting to have that NetBoot capability built directly into the platform now, right? So it no longer require an additional Mac server sitting out there on the network to get those Macs to boot in a pre-boot environment for redeployment. That's now baked into the platform, right? It's the same site server, same deployment solution, You simply enable that and obviously build a pre-boot image, right? So just like Pixie, you have to build a pre-boot image for that for that platform, and then again include that in the configuration there. Additionally, there's some additional capabilities around software detection rules. So very much like in the Windows world, where you may want to create managed delivery policies, software delivery policies for Macintosh software, you can do that as well here in the 7.5 platform. And very much related to that would be the intelligent import process for Mac packages. So again, very similar to the Windows world where you input an MSI and it tries to auto-create some install command lines for you and predefine some things. Same thing on the Mac side, right? You import that Mac package and it will predefine some of those presets for you. And then finally, that NTL MV2 support as well, so we can again manage those Macs in some of the more recent 80 environments and that type of thing. So again, very quickly here as we take a look at some of the screenshots related to specifically the Mac imaging capabilities. On the left-hand side, we can see there in just the general NetBoot settings configuration highlighted is the ability to enable the Mac NetBoot support, right? So we enable that, and then on the right-hand side, as we would have to do on the with Pixie and everything else, we have to create a pre-boot environment, right? So that's kind of what that looks like there. Once that's created, you simply upload the image. It's distributed to the site servers as normally, and then when you want to deploy a Mac, it simply boots off of that predefined pre-boot image. Okay. Performance. So this is another area again as we take a look at. I mentioned earlier. Any type of upgrade, right? Everybody always wants things to go faster, right? We want the experience to be smoother. We want the process to go faster, and we want console performance to be very, very quick. And so Symantec has done a lot of work around enhancing that console performance. Very anecdotally here, as we were working in conjunction with some beta customers and doing some testing. We were hammering the SMP that we were working with pretty hard as it was processing NSEs and doing a lot of different work that in previous versions of the platform we'd seen cases where it may have actually slowed down the console response and affected that. But in this particular case, as we were doing again our normal testing and troubleshooting all of that, the console didn't slow down at all, and so. Something that actually, to a certain extent, we'd relied on as almost a troubleshooting feature in the past is, well, the console is slow. That can be an indication of things going on. That's actually improved quite a bit here. So very happy to see that. Now, in relation to that, not just on the console performance perspective, but also from just a pure installation process, Symantec has done some great work here to streamline the install process, the upgrade process, and make that much quicker. As we can see here, there are fewer MSIs, and it's a much more streamlined activity. Again, in the experience that we've had, as we've done very, very extensive testing internally here at ITS, as well as in conjunction with Symantec, we've seen that come very, very true. Right? Again, just even from a download perspective, it's taking significantly less time to get the required packages downloaded and then walk through the process to install. Again, has been shortened and simplified greatly. So again, some great capabilities there. And then there's some additional things that were done around performance. Again, this is obviously not an exhaustive list, but the ability to disable auto execution of reports, that type of thing, right? So so from a console experience and overall performance experience, you can do some additional tuning. There's some additional tuning and capabilities there that were not there in previous versions. So looking briefly here at some of the consoles, I took a couple of screenshots here. You'll notice first off that it looks very similar to 7.0 and 7.1, frankly, right? And that's the point. The point of 7.5 is not to completely rip and replace the entire experience, right? And start all of that over from scratch. It's more to take what's there, take the good elements, let's enhance them, let's make them better, add some additional capabilities there. So the upper left-hand corner screenshot that we see there, that's just that initial welcome screen that many of you have seen. And then the lower right-hand corner are some additional flipbooks that Symantec has included. So when you're in there looking at computers, you can pop these flipbooks open and get some data, get some additional data right there in front of you. You don't have to go to a report or somewhere else. It's just right there in front of you. So this particular case is, from my demo environment, we're at a couple of machines. Again, you can see I only have 2 machines there. And it just gives me a quick breakdown of operating systems, right? So again, some additional tweaks there that we've seen from a console performance perspective, but also just from a pure reporting and interface capability as well. There's been some tweaks and additions there as well. Platform support. I'm not going to spend a ton of time talking about this, right? This is more of just a data point here, but again, is important for a lot of our customers in that again, Windows 8 is support, Windows Server and Windows and SQL Server 2012 are supported from an agent perspective. Additional Red Hat and Linux, other Linux platforms and Mac OS platforms have been updated and added as well, right? Again, so trying to move along that spectrum and get up to where the operating systems are today, right? And then moving forward, have a very aggressive stance towards platform support and making sure that that's coming out in a very regimented and regular fashion. So as other vendors update their software, Symantec is supporting those right alongside as well. So automation is kind of another personal favorite of mine. I've been very involved personally in Symantec's workflow product for quite a while, and then just general automation, right? I'm kind of a gearhead at heart, and I like to automate things and take things that used to require human intervention and make the machine go do it, so to speak, right? It's just some of those, especially some of those mundane things, right? It's like, well, I do this every day, and wouldn't it be great if I could just have another tool or have a tool in place that would just automatically go do X, Y, Z for me, right? So any additional capabilities around automation for me personally are always very interesting and exciting. So to that point, there's been a couple things done here from an automation perspective. The first thing that I wanted to mention is that there's a workflow being released to help deal with zero-day patches, right? So what are the questions and what are the things that I get asked of me when talking with customers and going through the implementation processes? What if we need to catch up devices, right? Or what if we need to deploy a zero-day patch, right? And I just don't have the ability to wait for normal patching cycles for this to happen, right? So Symantec has actually built a workflow utilizing the workflow engine to help address that specific solution. So it's available as part of the platform. It's no additional cost. You simply implement it, configure it, and then utilize that. In addition to that, as we look at the ASDK, and I know some of you use that, right? The software development kit that Symantec provides for the platform. Again, very powerful kit, allows you to automate. I've seen customers, and we've personally done a lot of really cool things with the ASDK, right? Having those hooks directly into the platform to do some things that naturally you might not even be able to do, right? But because the hooks are there, we can do them. So again, additional support there for software management, right? Deeper hooks into that is being added here into the 7.5 platform as well, which again I find personally very, very exciting because a lot of the automation workflows and things that we look at are around software management, right? We'd like to be able to do much more in-depth end-user self-service, and related to that, we want to be able to make sure we're, from a managed software delivery perspective, those applications are, stay installed once they're installed, and all of these different aspects that, through the ASDK we can enhance even further. So very excited about that as well. And then finally, the idea of an online library of pre-built workflows. So some of you may be familiar with this. This is not new with the 7.5 endpoint management platform. This came in really with workflow, which was updated earlier this year. But the idea here is built into the workflows console, workflow solution console, are a set of online pre-built workflows that you can simply take from the marketplace, so to speak, and implement into your environment. So Symantec continues to add to that list. One of those being, as I mentioned earlier, the zero-day patching workflow. So very quick screenshot here again of what that looks like. So the upper left-hand corner, as we look at the workflow console, the Symantec workflow console, we can see that solution center, that workflow solution center, an example of some of those predefined workflows. And then the right-hand side, lower right-hand side, we can see that zero-day patch workflow in edit mode, right? So this is what we see. This is kind of the back end, so to speak, of the workflow, where we can see it there. Once it's been downloaded, so to speak, from that solution center, right? So again, very some cool stuff there. Something to pay attention to. If you're not utilizing workflow right now within your environment, I highly recommend you take a look at it. It's a free process automation tool that already exists within your environment. You may, and again, I run into this every once in a while with customers. They don't even realize they have an extremely powerful process automation tool already within their environment because they have Altiris in their environment, right? It's part of the platform. It's not an additional cost, and it allows you to automate processes in a very robust manner. Okay, so let's talk about upgrade. This is one of the areas that I know generates a lot of interest and a lot of excitement from different customers. So I want to camp out on this a little bit and talk about kind of the two main paths from an upgrade perspective. Understanding that there always is that third perspective, which is you don't have Altiris today and you want to start from scratch and implement that, right? Well, that's still there. But for customers that are really looking to upgrade from an existing implementation, there's really two paths that we're looking at here. So for existing 7.1 customers that are on the 7.1 platform today, the upgrade to 7.5, and let me be very clear about this, the upgrade to 7.5 is an in-place upgrade. And that's the whole, that was one of the main goals of the 7.5 platform implementation, was to make it an in-place upgrade for those existing 7.1 customers, so that you're not looking at a complete re-architecture of the environment. You're not building a brand new architecture side by side and trying to build to bring it up. No, instead it is an in-place upgrade. You go to your existing infrastructure, as long as it matches all the required specifications and it's still an appropriate architecture, right? All of those caveats still apply as they would normally to any type of upgrade. But within those parameters, it is an in-place upgrade, right? So you go into the SIM, you say, I want to upgrade to 7.5, and you go through that upgrade process. So for what we've been seeing from a process perspective, this has been very successful. Again, as I mentioned, the beta customers that we've worked with and the extensive internal testing that we've done, this process has been very smooth and painless in a lot of ways, right? It goes in and it upgrades, right? And it works very well. So that's kind of the first aspects right there. The customers that are on the 7.1 platform and want to get the benefits of 7.5, but are a little nervous of, oh well, does this require additional infrastructure? Am I going to have to set up an entire new environment? In most cases, the answer to that is no. You can simply do an in-place upgrade, and obviously that's something that we at ITS can help with. The only caveat to that that question about infrastructure and is anything else additional required would be related to cloud-enabled management, right? CEM. If you do want to add cloud-enabled management into your environment, then again, yes, you are looking at some what I would view, and I know a lot of customers view, as a very minor addition and modification to your environment. That really revolves around getting those gateway servers placed into the DMZ, and then obviously additional configuration around making sure firewalls are configured appropriately and all of that. So I by no means want to minimize that, but from a pure implementation perspective, it's typically the only time we're looking at, hey, we probably want to look at additional hardware, again, whether virtual or physical, would be those gateway servers. So that's the first. That's the first scenario. The second scenario are customers that are on the 7.0 platform or older, right? So 7.0 or 6 or 6.5 or what have you. What we're looking at there is that would be more of a migration, right? It's not an in-place upgrade where we can just go into an existing S&P infrastructure, hit the upgrade button, and it will upgrade. And that is the reason for that is very similar to the reason that from 7.0 to 7.1 was a migration effort, because again the underpinnings and platform have changed, right? It's a 64-bit platform. Requires that level of hardware, and so in order to move over to 7.5 from anything 7.0 and older will require that migration process. Again, these are all things that we at ITS can help you understand at a deeper level, as well as assist with the actual process if that's a need for you. Now, again, just as a quick note, we realize that as we look at a migration where, yes, we are looking at probably standing up additional infrastructure and doing some of those activities, there's also the question about, well, what about my data? What about my application packages? What happens there, right? We have a whole process to help move you through that, as well as tools that we've been able to leverage, either existing internal tools from ITS or Symantec, to help you with that migration process, right? So if you don't want to start from absolute scratch, you don't have to, right? But again, that's where we can help, provide some advice and some ideas there around how would you actually want to migrate if that is a requirement. So that's the upgrade path. Okay, so the final point here that I wanted to talk about is the iPad application, which is a native iOS application that will be downloaded from the Apple Store. So just like any other app you get on your iOS device, it comes from the Apple Store subsequent to the release of 7.5. So 7.5 from a release perspective, and I don't want to steal too much thunder from Symantec, so I'll briefly mention that Symantec has a 7.5 release webinar next Wednesday. So again, from a release perspective, we're looking pretty imminently here. There will be a subsequent release of this application out to the App Store that will allow you to view some dashboard information, right, some quick hit information, as well as perform some administrative actions, right? So as you're wandering around out there, you don't have to go find a PC to log into the console to maybe force an update of configuration or execute a task or what have you. You can do that directly from the iPad application. So this is what it looks like. These are some example screenshots of what that iPad application looks like. On the left-hand side, we see some summary information, some dashboard information, for a specific device here, and then on the right-hand side, exposing some of those tasks or actions for that device as well. So right from my iPad, I can say, okay, I want to restart this device or shut it down or force a sudden basic inventory, right? Some of those admin capabilities as well. So pretty cool. Definitely looking forward to that. And the additional updates will be coming around the iPad app as well. So those are the 7.5 reasons. Again, I find it very, very compelling. There's a lot of capabilities there that we've been looking for at ITS. Our customers have been looking for, and I know Symantec is very excited about being able to release this out to everybody and start getting customers upgraded to this latest platform. So as a wrap up here, I want to do a few things. One of which is to mention some of the capabilities ITS has around helping you with 7.5. And one of those one of those capabilities or offerings that we have are two options or two things that we can do to help you with the upgrade process, right? So we built some packages here to help you or help a majority of customers, frankly, upgrade to the 7.5 platform. So again, there are a few minor caveats. For instance, this has got to be an upgrade, right? A brand new installation we can still absolutely help with. It just wouldn't fit within the within this quick start program, so to speak. So we see two options here. Option one is an upgrade of the existing 7.1 platform to 7.5, right? So getting you upgraded, making sure the configuration is still valid, agents are communicating the way they should in an appropriate manner, as well as access to our ongoing remote training. So we will be putting on some training. Some of our own built-in training, so this is not a replacement for official semantic training by any means. This is something that ITS has put together where customers who purchase these quick starts can have access to that training, which is all around 7.5, right? What are the capabilities? How do they work? All those different types of things. And the training will be, just a quick side note on that, that will be offered in kind of an ongoing repetitive basis, right? So if you miss one, you could pick it up the next time, and it will all be remote. And in addition to the training in these packages, we're also offering some of our ITS's support, right? So ITS's support offering really focuses around providing best of breed implementation support to customers out there, right? So don't necessarily think of this as level one. This is support that's staffed by actual implementation consultants that really understand the platform and can help out with some of those really sticky questions, whether it's an actual troubleshooting situation where something appears to be broken, or maybe a process isn't working the way that you think it should be working and you need some additional help. We can help out with that. So the option one, as we see there, includes all of those aspects. Option two includes all of that with the addition of configuring cloud-enabled management, right? As I mentioned, it's from an implementation perspective, there are a few things to kind of keep in mind and pay attention to. We've been there, we've done that, we've got the experience, and we want to be able to help with that, in as many environments as we possibly can, right? To make that as smooth as possible. And then the other addition, main addition there, as we look at option two, would be additional access to support as well. So that's my shameless plug there as it relates to helping with the upgrade process. As with anything, there are a few caveats here, nothing major, but the main idea here is if you are considering upgrading to 7.5, but you also have a little bit of a question mark in your head about, well, what's this really going to take? And how do I get there? Please contact us either via our website, as you can see there in the lower left hand corner there, www.itsdelivers.com, or if you know who your ITS rep is, feel free to contact them as well, and we can absolutely walk you through those options. A couple final wrap-up pieces there, as I really appreciate everybody's time. As I mentioned earlier, Symantec does have a webcast next Wednesday all around the release of 7.5, right? So this, as I mentioned earlier, 7.5 is imminent. It is coming, and with the release webinar next week, it's right here. It's ready to go. It's a great platform, and I highly recommend that you take a look at that webcast. So that's on the Symantec side. On the ITS side, as we look at our investment in the Symantec endpoint platform and everything that we've done, you will be seeing additional content coming out from us. We've already got 2 additional videos out on our website. So again, go to our website and you'll see a more in-depth series on, as we see here, the 2 that we have right now are around deployment, additional capabilities around deployment solution, and then cloud-enabled management as well, right? So head out to the website. There's a pre-recorded. You can watch them anytime, and there will be more of those coming out. And I'm going to go ahead and leave this page up and running, so that again you have all the contact information that you need in order to get a hold of us here at ITS and get any additional information, as I mentioned, the videos and all of that. I thank everybody for for joining this webcast today. Very, again, as I mentioned, ITS and me personally, we're very excited about 7.5 capabilities that it provides to our customers. Again, thank you everybody and have a great day.